I'm Jessica Hernandez, a marketing professional in Denver. For 3 years, I skipped nights out and saved every spare dollar so I could buy a decent car of my own. But at the dealership, the manager just glanced at my file and said, coldly, 482. My hard-earned credit score, destroyed in an instant. I couldn't buy the car. Someone had taken out more than $50,000 in loans using my name, crushing the future I'd been building. Then I found a $10,000 loan for a retreat in Costa Rica. My heart stopped. That was the exact trip my mother, Maria, was always bragging about, saying the universe had blessed her with it. The person who ruined my life was my own mother. She never called it shopping or investing. She called it a way to heal the spirit. Her words sounded harmless, but the cost was everything I'd worked for. Everything became painfully clear when I happened to open an old photo folder on her computer. There was a video. My mother, proudly showing a loan confirmation, saying she'd used my papers to sign up for it, talking about it like some trophy. Tonight, I will not call her mom. I will demand justice for myself, not with pleas, but with proof and resolve. I will confront her as a criminal and make her return everything she stole from me. The smell of new car, that intoxicating blend of leather, plastic, and possibility, was so close I could almost taste it. I ran my hand over the dashboard of the sleek, silver sedan, the surface cool and smooth beneath my fingertips. For 3 years, I had bobbied my old college clunker, a rattling beast of a car that coughed more than it roared and had a particular fondness for dying at the most inconvenient intersections in Denver. But I had saved. I had budgeted every paycheck from my marketing job, skipped expensive brunches, and said no to weekend getaways, all for this moment, all for a car that wouldn't have a check engine light as a permanent decorative feature. She's a beauty, isn't she? The salesman, a man named Gary with a too-wide smile and a tie spangled with tiny dollar signs, purred from the passenger seat. She is, I agreed, my voice full of genuine awe. She's perfect. Well, Jessica, with your down payment and a steady job, the financing should be a breeze. Let's head inside and get the paperwork started. We'll have you driving off the lot in under an hour. My heart hammered against my ribs with excitement. This was it, a real, adult purchase. A symbol of my independence, of the life I was carefully building for myself, brick by responsible brick. I followed Gary into the sterile, glass-walled office, the scent of stale coffee and air freshener replacing the new car smell. I handed over my driver's license and my social security number, my hands steady, my confidence soaring. I texted my best friend, Chloe. It's happening, say goodbye to the rattletrap. A string of champagne bottle emojis popped up in response almost instantly. Yes, I'll meet you at our spot tonight to celebrate. First rounds on me. I smiled down at my phone. Chloe had been my staunchest supporter, listening to me agonize over trim packages and interest rates for weeks. She understood what this meant. It wasn't just about transportation, it was about reliability, about feeling secure. Mr. Henderson, the finance manager, was a stark contrast to Gary. He was a man made of sharp angles and muted colors, his face set in a permanent look of mild disapproval. He typed my information into his computer with a series of sharp, decisive clicks. The silence stretched, punctuated only by the clatter of the keyboard. I watched his expression, waiting for the nod, the smile, the congratulations. Instead, his brow furrowed. He clicked his mouse a few more times, his lips thinning into a straight line. Is there a problem? I asked, a small knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. He looked up from his monitor, his eyes cold and impersonal. Ms. Hernandez, I'm afraid we can't approve your loan application at this time. The words didn't compute. It felt like he had suddenly switched to a different language. What? I don't understand. I have a good job, a significant down payment. Your down payment is fine, he said, steepling his fingers on his desk. Your credit score, however, is not. My credit score? I almost laughed. There must be a mistake. I have one credit card that I pay off every month. I've never missed a payment on anything in my life. My score is excellent. I knew it was. I checked it religiously. It was one of the first things I learned to do when I graduated and got my first real job. He swiveled his monitor toward me. And there, in stark black and white, was a number that made the air leave my lungs. 482. It wasn't just bad, it was catastrophic. That's impossible, I whispered, staring at the screen. That's not me. According to TransUnion, it is you, Mr. Henderson said, his tone suggesting he dealt with tearful, delusional customers every day. You have multiple accounts and collections, several maxed-out credit cards, a personal loan that's in default. My head was spinning. What accounts? What loan? I haven't opened a new account in years. He shrugged, a small, dismissive gesture that made me feel like an insect. I can't give you the specific details. You'll have to pull your full credit report. All I can tell you is that based on this profile, you're considered a high-risk borrower. No bank is going to finance you for a vehicle. He turned the monitor back around, a clear signal that our business was concluded. I walked out of that dealership in a daze. The bright Colorado sun felt accusatory, the cheerful gleam of the new cars in the lot mocking me. I stumbled back to the rattletrap, which for once started on the first try, its familiar, sputtering engine a sad comfort. I drove not home, but to a nearby park, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. I pulled my phone out and called Chloe, my voice cracking on the first word. Chloe, hey, did you get it? Are you driving a non-death trap right now? Her cheerful voice chirped. A sob escaped my lips, raw and ugly. They denied the loan. What? Her voice instantly shifted from celebratory to fiercely protective. Why? Did that sleazy salesman try to pull something? I swear, Jess, I will go down there and… It wasn't him, I choked out, tears blurring the view of the Rocky Mountains in the distance. It was my credit score. Chloe, it's a disaster. He said it was 482. He said I have accounts and collections, loans I've never even heard of. There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end. Okay, she said, her voice calm and steady, the way it always got in a crisis. Okay, that's insane. It's obviously a mistake. Identity theft. It has to be. Identity theft. The word sounded foreign, like something you heard about on the news, something that happened to other people, to careless people. Not to me. I shredded my mail. I used complex passwords. I was careful. Yes, Jess, think about it. Someone got your information. It happens all the time. Listen to me. Go home. Get on your computer right now and pull your official, full credit reports from all 3 bureaus: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Pay the fee for the detailed ones. I'm leaving work now. I'll be there in 30 minutes with wine and a battle plan. She was right. I needed a plan. Crying in my car wasn't going to fix whatever this was. I drove home, my mind racing. Who could have done this? How could this have happened? Every transaction, every piece of mail, every online form I'd ever filled out scrolled through my memory. It felt like a violation of the deepest kind. My apartment, usually my sanctuary, felt cold and unsafe. I sat at my small dining table, the laptop's glow illuminating my pale, tear-streaked face. My hands trembled as I navigated the credit bureau websites, the process feeling surreal. I had to answer security questions to prove I was me, questions about past addresses and loan amounts I didn't recognize. On the 3rd try, I was finally granted access. The first report loaded onto the screen. It was from TransUnion, the same one the dealership used. I scrolled down past my personal information, which was all correct: my name, Jessica Hernandez, my address, my date of birth. And then I saw it. It started small. A retail card for a high-end department store in Beverly Hills opened 6 months ago. The balance was $8,400. I had never been to Beverly Hills. Below that, another card, this one for a home improvement store. Balance, $5,200. I lived in an apartment. I didn't even own a hammer. Then, the loans. A personal loan for $15,000 from an online lender called Financially Free Lenders. The reason listed was debt consolidation. The payment history showed 3 missed payments before it went into default. Another loan, smaller, for $5,000 for emergency home repairs. The list went on. Card after card, loan after loan. It was a phantom life of reckless spending, a map of debt that spanned the entire country. The total was staggering. It was more than I made in 2 years. I felt nauseous, the room tilting around me. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a systematic and brutal financial assault. Just as Chloe burst through the door, a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc in one hand and a tub of ice cream in the other, my phone buzzed. It was my mom. I ignored it. I couldn't talk to her right now. I couldn't talk to anyone but Chloe. Oh, honey, Chloe said, dropping everything on the counter and wrapping her arms around me as I started to shake again. It's that bad? I could only point a trembling finger at the screen. She came over and peered at the report, her eyes widening as she scrolled. Her usual fiery anger was replaced by a look of disbelief. Beverly Hills, home improvement? She muttered, scrolling faster. Financially Free Lenders? Who are these people? This is a full-time job's worth of fraud, Jess. The phone buzzed again. Mom, a picture of her smiling brightly on a beach in Mexico from a trip a few years ago, flashed on the screen. Is that your mom? Chloe asked. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. Are you going to answer? Not now, she'll worry, or she'll tell me to think positive and meditate on it. My mom, Maria, had always been a bit of a free spirit. Since my dad left when I was 10, she'd floated from job to job, always searching for her true calling. In the last couple of years, that search had intensified, leading her down a rabbit hole of self-proclaimed gurus and expensive, life-altering retreats. She spoke a new language now, one filled with words like manifesting, abundance, and vibrational energy. She was always chasing a feeling, a breakthrough that was just one more seminar or one more exotic trip away. I loved her, of course I did, but her financial flakiness had been a source of stress my entire life. It was why I was so obsessively responsible with my own money. I had to be the anchor in our two-person family. Maybe you should talk to her, Chloe said gently. Has anyone been staying with you? Has anyone had access to your mail? No, I said, shaking my head. No one, I live alone. I get all my important mail sent electronically. I don't understand how this could have happened. The phone buzzed a third time. This time, a text message followed. Jessie, sweetie, pick up. I have the most amazing news to share with you. The universe has truly provided. I stared at the message, a cold dread washing over me that had nothing to do with the credit report on the screen and everything to do with my mother's boundless, and often baseless, optimism. Chloe saw the look on my face. What is it? I showed her the text. She read it, then looked back at the screen full of debt, and then back at me. A strange, unreadable expression crossed her face. The universe, she said slowly, her voice laced with a sarcasm so sharp it could cut glass, has been very, very busy. I finally answered on the fourth ring, my voice flat and hollow. Hi, Mom. Jessie, darling, I was starting to think you were screening my calls, she chirped, her voice brimming with an almost manic energy. It was a sound I knew well. It was the voice she used when she was on the cusp of what she believed was a major life breakthrough. I was busy, I lied, gesturing for Chloe to lower the volume on the hold music from the credit bureau's fraud department. Of course you were. You're always so busy with that important marketing job, but you have to make time to receive the universe's blessings. And honey, it has delivered in a big way. I have the most incredible news. I squeezed my eyes shut, a headache beginning to bloom behind my temples. Mom, can it wait? It's really not a good time. Nonsense, there's never a bad time for good news. It changes your whole vibrational frequency. So I was meditating this morning, focusing on my intention to attract transformative experiences, and I got an email. You are not going to believe this. I've been accepted into the Soul Sovereign retreat in Costa Rica. Costa Rica? The name of the country sounded absurd, a place on another planet. Mom, that sounds expensive. Oh, it's not an expense, darling, it's an investment. Happiness in my spiritual growth. The universe provides for what is truly meant to be. That's what Guru Avi teaches. You have to live in a state of abundance to receive abundance. Chloe caught my eye and mouthed the word guru with a roll of her eyes. I shook my head slightly, trying to stay focused. Mom, listen to me, I said, my voice firmer now. Something bad has happened. I went to buy a car today and I was denied the loan. Oh, well, maybe it just wasn't the right car for you, sweetie. The universe is probably protecting you from bad automotive karma. No, Mom, it wasn't the car. My credit score is destroyed. Someone stole my identity. There are thousands and thousands of dollars in debt under my name that isn't mine. I'm on the phone with the fraud department right now. The words came out in a rush, desperate for her to understand the gravity of the situation. There was a pause on her end. For a fleeting second, I thought the reality of my words had finally broken through her wall of spiritual platitudes. Oh, Jessica, she finally said, her voice softening, but not with the alarm or concern I needed. It was a soft, pitying tone. You're creating such a negative reality for yourself with this kind of thinking. There's no such thing as stolen identity. It's an energetic lesson. The universe is testing you. It's asking you to release your attachment to worldly things, to numbers on a screen. This isn't a crisis, it's a chrysalis. I was speechless. A chrysalis? I was in a financial coffin and she was talking about butterflies. Mom, this is real life. This isn't one of your seminars. This is going to affect my ability to live, to get an apartment, to do anything. I could be in debt for the rest of my life. Only if you accept that reality, she said serenely. I have to run, sweetie. My yoga class starts in 20 minutes. It's a special session on releasing financial blockages. Isn't that a wonderful synchronicity? Just breathe, Jessie, meditate on it. The answer will come to you. Love you. And then she was gone. The line went dead, leaving only the tinny hold music and the gaping silence of my apartment. I stared at my phone, a feeling of utter abandonment washing over me. It was worse than if she'd yelled or cried. It was a complete and total dismissal of my reality in favor of her own manufactured, sun-drenched version of the world. "Cannot believe her," Chloe said, her voice a low growl. "A chrysalis? I'd like to put her in a chrysalis." A strangled laugh escaped my lips. "She means well." The words sounded hollow even to me. "No, Jess, she doesn't," Chloe said, her tone serious. She put her hand on my arm. "People who mean well don't tell you your house is on fire and that it's a good opportunity to learn about warmth. She is a black hole of self-absorption. Your call is very important to us. Please continue to hold." The automated voice was a welcome interruption. For the next 4 hours, Chloe and I entered a special kind of bureaucratic hell. We were transferred, disconnected, and put on hold. I had to repeat the story of my stolen identity so many times the words began to lose their meaning. With each call to a different credit card company, a new piece of the puzzle fell into place. The addresses were the first major clue. The bills for the Beverly Hills shopping spree were being sent to a P.O. box in Boulder. The home improvement card was registered to a mail center in Aurora. None of it made sense. It was geographically scattered, a trail of breadcrumbs leading everywhere and nowhere. We filed a report with the Denver Police Department online, receiving a sterile, automated email with a case number. It felt like shouting into the void. By midnight, we had a spreadsheet. Chloe, ever the organized marketing professional, had created columns for each fraudulent account, the balance, the date it was opened, and the contact information for the fraud department. Looking at it all laid out in neat rows and columns didn't make it less terrifying. It just made the nightmare more organized. "We need another perspective," Chloe said, yawning as she scrolled through the list. "Someone who isn't us, someone who might see a pattern we're missing." My mind immediately went to my older brother, Liam. He was a software engineer, a man who thought in logic and code. He was the polar opposite of our mother. While she chased spiritual highs, he built stable systems. We weren't as close as Chloe and I, but in a crisis, Liam was a rock. I dialed his number. He picked up on the second ring, his voice groggy. "Jess, it's past midnight. Is everything okay?" "Not really," I said, and for the third time that night I told the whole sordid story, from the silver sedan to the 482 credit score to the disastrous phone call with our mother. Unlike Chloe's fiery outrage or Mom's airy dismissal, Liam was silent for a long time after I finished. "Liam, are you there?" "I'm here," he said, his voice heavy. "I'm just processing. Okay, first things first. Freeze your credit with all 3 bureaus. Now, tonight. It prevents any new accounts from being opened. Did you do that?" "Yes, Chloe had me do that first thing." "Good. Second, the police report is mostly a formality for the credit card companies, but keep that case number handy, you'll need it. Third, Jess, I have to ask, you said the addresses were all over the place." "Yeah, P.O. boxes, mail centers, Boulder, Aurora, it's random." "It's not random," he said quietly. "Criminals who do this for a living usually have a centralized drop point. Using multiple mail centers is what you do if you're trying to hide your tracks locally. It's amateurish." "What are you saying?" He sighed, a sound I knew well. It was his "I have to deal with Mom's latest mess" sigh. "I'm just saying you should keep an open mind about who could have done this. People with access to your information aren't always shadowy hackers in another country. Sometimes they're closer. You think it's someone I know." The thought made my skin crawl. I'm not saying anything for sure, I just think about it. Who knows your full name, your date of birth, your social security number? "A million places," I said, my voice rising in frustration. "The DMV, my doctor's office, my old college." Okay, you're right. I don't want to make you paranoid," he said, backing off. "Look, I'm flying back to Denver for a work thing in 2 days. I'll be there for a week. We'll sit down, go through all of this, and figure out a real, actionable plan. Not just calls, but letters, affidavits, everything. We'll fix this." Hearing his calm, methodical confidence was like a balm on my frayed nerves. "Really? Really? In the meantime, try to get some sleep. And Jess, don't talk to Mom about this anymore. It's not productive." "Yeah," I said, looking at the empty wine bottle on the counter. "I already figured that out." After I hung up, Chloe started packing up her things. "He's right, you know," she said, avoiding my gaze as she slid her laptop into her bag. "About what, Mom?" "About it being someone close. Think about it, Jess. Your social security number. It's not something you just leave lying around. Your mom would have it from when you were a kid. Tax forms, school applications, FAFSA. I felt a surge of anger. "Stop. It's not her. I know she's flaky and self-obsessed, but she's not a criminal. She would never, ever do this to me. She loves me." "I know you believe that," Chloe said softly, finally looking at me, her eyes full of pity. "And I hope you're right, I really do, but this is too much money and too much effort to be random. Someone targeted you specifically, and they knew enough about you to get past every security check. She hugged me tightly at the door. Get some rest. We'll keep fighting tomorrow. After she left, the silence in the apartment was deafening. I couldn't sleep. I just sat on the couch, staring at the spreadsheet on my laptop screen. A chrysalis. My mom's word echoed in my head, a period of transformation. I felt like I was transforming, all right, shedding a skin of naivety, of childish belief in the inherent goodness of people. Chloe and Liam were wrong. They had to be. My mother, for all her faults, was not a monster. She was just lost. My eyes scanned the list of fraudulent accounts again. Majestic Rewards Visa. Premier Travel MasterCard. Financially free lenders. My gaze snagged on one I hadn't paid much attention to before. A small, 4-figure loan from an organization called the Ascendancy Institute. The reason for the loan was listed as educational advancement. I typed the name into a search engine. The website that loaded was a wash of sunrise colors and smiling, beatific faces. The headline read, "Unlock Your Inner Potential, the Ascendancy Institute, a Journey to Self-Mastery." It was a hub for the exact kind of high-priced gurus and spiritual retreats my mother adored. I clicked on the tuition and fees page. There, listed under their premium offerings, was the Soul Sovereign Retreat Costa Rica. The price was $10,000, the exact amount of the fraudulent loan taken out in my name. My blood ran cold. It had to be a coincidence. A horrible, sickening coincidence. It wasn't a coincidence. The thought landed with the force of a physical blow, heavy and sickening. The world is full of coincidences, I told myself. There must be hundreds of these scammy self-help institutes. It's a booming industry. Someone else, some other identity thief, just happened to use the same one my mother was obsessed with. But the amount, $10,000, it was too perfect. It was the exact price of the gilded cage my mother was so desperate to fly to. I stood up from the table, my legs unsteady. I walked to the window and looked out at the Denver skyline, the distant lights blurry and indistinct. A stranger doing this was a violation. It was a crime of opportunity, a random act of digital violence. But if it was my mother, what was that? It wasn't just a crime. It was a betrayal so profound I didn't even have a name for it. It was a complete unraveling of everything I thought I knew about the person who gave me life. I picked up my phone to call Chloe, but my finger hovered over her name. What would I even say? Remember that insane, impossible theory you had? Well, I found a receipt. I couldn't form the words. Admitting it to her would make it real, and I wasn't ready for that yet. I was still clinging to that 1 in a million chance that this was all a cosmic mistake. The next 2 days passed in a fog of anxiety. I went to work, sat in meetings about social media engagement and quarterly growth, and smiled at my colleagues. I nodded and typed and contributed ideas, my mind a million miles away, endlessly scrolling through the phantom life of debt that had been built in my name. Every ping of my email, every buzz of my phone sent a jolt of adrenaline through my system. I was living on a knife's edge, waiting for the next disaster. I avoided my mother's calls, letting them go to voicemail. Her messages were relentlessly cheerful, filled with updates about her travel preparations and affirmations she thought I should try. "Jessie, darling, I'm picturing you surrounded by a golden light of financial abundance. You just have to believe it to receive it." She trilled in one message, and I had to physically restrain myself from throwing my phone against the wall. Liam arrived on a Tuesday evening, looking tired from his flight, but with a familiar, steady calm in his eyes. He hugged me tightly at my apartment door. "You look like hell, Jess," he said, his voice gentle. It was the most comforting thing anyone had said to me all week. "I feel like hell," I admitted, leading him inside. Chloe arrived 10 minutes later with 2 large pizzas and a grimly determined look on her face. "The War Council is now in session," she announced, setting the boxes down on my coffee table. For the next hour, I walked them through everything again, this time with Liam's laptop open next to mine. He didn't interrupt. He just listened, his eyes scanning the spreadsheets Chloe and I had built, his expression unreadable. He clicked through the credit reports, navigated to the website for the Ascendancy Institute, and read my mother's recent text messages, which I'd almost been afraid to look at again. When I was finally done, the room was silent, save for the hum of the refrigerator. Liam leaned back, rubbing his eyes. He looked older than he had 2 days ago. "Okay," he said, his voice low, "it's her." There was no doubt in his voice, no room for argument. Hearing him say it so simply and with such certainty broke the dam of my denial. A dry sob escaped my throat. Chloe immediately moved to my side, putting an arm around my shoulders. "How can you be so sure?" I whispered, though I already knew the answer. The Ascendancy Institute loan is the smoking gun, Jess. It's too specific, he said, pointing at the screen. But it's not just that. Look at the timeline. The first fraudulent card was opened 6 months ago. What was going on 6 months ago? I thought back. My mind was a blur. I don't know, work was busy. Mom had just lost her job at the yoga studio, Liam said quietly. The one she said was stifling her spiritual expression. And she had just gotten back from that weekend workshop with that guy, Guru Avi. My blood ran cold as the pieces clicked into place. The job loss, the new guru, the sudden, desperate need for a transformative experience. It was a perfect storm of her worst impulses. She's not a master criminal, Liam continued, his voice taking on a clinical, analytical tone that was his way of managing emotion. She's messy. Using different P.O. boxes and mail drops is an attempt to cover her tracks, but it's what an amateur would do. She's probably panicking, trying to keep all the statements and bills from coming to her own address or to yours. So what do? Chloe asked, her voice tight with anger. We call her, we confront her, we make her fix this. Liam shook his head. No, not yet. A confrontation right now will just lead to denial. She'll cry, she'll say we're attacking her, she'll twist it around and say the universe is testing her faith in her own happiness. She will not confess. Not until we have undeniable, physical proof that links her directly to these accounts. What kind of proof? I asked, my voice trembling. How do we get that? We need to connect her to one of those P.O. boxes, he said. We need an application with her handwriting on it. We need security footage of her at an ATM using one of these cards. Something she can't deny or explain away with spiritual gibberish. We need to think like a prosecutor. The idea of prosecuting my own mother made me feel ill. I don't want to send her to jail, Liam. I want this to stop. I want my life back. I know, he said, his voice softening. But the only way to make it stop is to take away her ability to deny it. We have to build a case so airtight that she has no choice but to face the truth. Then and only then do we decide what to do with it. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of his words settling over us. He was right. A simple conversation wouldn't work. It never had. My entire life, my mother had constructed her own reality, a world where intentions mattered more than actions, where consequences could be meditated away. To break through that, we needed something harder than words. We needed facts. There's someone else we can talk to, I said suddenly, an idea forming in my mind. Aunt Carol. My Aunt Carol was my mother's younger sister. She was a sweet woman, but a notorious gossip, and she adored my mother, viewing her flightiness not as a character flaw but as a charming eccentricity. My mother told her everything. Liam's eyes lit up with a flicker of interest. Good idea. What's the angle? Mom has probably been bragging to her for months about all her new investments and opportunities. Carol won't be suspicious if I call to check in. She might know something, some small detail that could help. Like where Mom is getting her mail, or if she's mentioned a new bank. It's a long shot, but it's better than nothing, Liam agreed. Do it now, put it on speaker. My heart pounded as I found her number. This felt like a new level of betrayal, using a family member as an unwitting informant against my own mother. But Liam was right. This was a prosecution, and I was the star witness, the victim, and now the lead investigator. Carol answered on the second ring, her voice warm and bubbly. Jessica, honey, it's so good to hear from you. I was just thinking about your mother. She is on such an incredible journey. Hi, Aunt Carol, I said, trying to keep my voice light. Yeah, I know, she told me about the Costa Rica trip. It sounds amazing. Amazing doesn't even begin to describe it, Carol gushed. She is just manifesting her best life. I told her, I said, Maria, I don't know how you're affording all this, but good for you. And you know what she said? She said the universe provides for those who are brave enough to ask. She's even started her own little business, a life coaching consultancy. Liam and Chloe exchanged a look. This was new information. Oh, wow, I said, feigning surprise. A business? That's great. What's it called? Oh, I don't know, something about abundance or sovereignty. It's all a bit over my head. But she's so professional about it. She even got a new business mailbox so she can receive client payments. She said the post office in her neighborhood was too unreliable. My breath hitched. Liam leaned forward, his eyes locked on my phone. A business mailbox? I asked, trying to sound casual. Where did she get that? Oh, one of those mail center places. Up in Boulder, I think she said. Closer to some of her new, high-energy clients, I suppose. She said it was so important to have a professional address. Boulder. The P.O. box in Boulder. Where the bills for the $8,000 shopping spree in Beverly Hills were being sent. It wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't a mistake. It was a plan. That's great, Aunt Carol, I managed to say, my throat closing up. I'm so happy for her. After a few more minutes of pleasantries, I hung up the phone. I looked at Liam, then at Chloe. The last shred of hope, the flimsy, desperate hope that this was all a terrible misunderstanding, was gone. It had been replaced by a cold, hard certainty that felt like a stone in the pit of my stomach. So, Chloe said, her voice dangerously quiet, what's our next move? Liam stared at the address for the Boulder Mail Center he had already pulled up on his laptop. Tomorrow, he said, his voice steely. We take a drive to Boulder. The drive to Boulder was silent for the first 20 minutes. The highway stretched out before us, a ribbon of gray asphalt cutting through the browns and greens of the high plains. I stared out the passenger window, watching the familiar landscape roll by, but I wasn't really seeing it. I was seeing my mother's smiling face in my mind, hearing her voice on the phone telling me to meditate my problems away. How do you reconcile the memory of the woman who kissed your scraped knees with the image of a person methodically destroying your future? Liam drove with a quiet focus, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. He wasn't looking at the scenery either. He was looking at the road ahead, as if he could see the entire plan laid out on the pavement. I still don't understand how she could have got my social security number so easily, I said, the words barely a whisper. I haven't lived with her in 8 years. Liam let out a short, humorless laugh. Jess, she has it memorized, just like she is mine. She's had it since the day we were born. School forms, doctor's offices, the FAFSA for college. She probably filled out your first application for a student credit card. To her, it's not your number. It's just another piece of family information like a birthday. But to use it to apply for loans, in her mind, she's not stealing, he said, his voice hard. She's borrowing, she's manifesting. She's been marinating in this toxic positivity cult for years. They've given her a whole new vocabulary to justify her selfishness. It's not debt, it's an energetic investment. It's not fraud, it's claiming her abundance. He was right. I remembered a phone call a few weeks ago with her friend, Elaine, another disciple of Guru Avi. Elaine had called to tell me how proud she was of my mother. Your mom is just so brave, Jessica, she had cooed. So many women our age become invisible, but Maria is refusing to be silenced. She is claiming her joy, and it's an inspiration to us all. I talked to her friend Elaine a while back, I told Liam. She said Mom was claiming her joy, claiming it, like it was a prize she was owed, and it didn't matter who got trampled while she ran to the finish line. Elaine is an enabler, Liam said dismissively. Mom has surrounded herself with people who tell her exactly what she wants to hear. It's a fortress of delusion, and that's why we need proof. We have to bring a battering ram to the gates of that fortress, because knocking politely isn't going to work. The mail center was located in a soulless strip mall, sandwiched between a discount mattress store and a nail salon. It was utterly, painfully mundane. The kind of place you drive past 1,000 times and never notice. The perfect place to hide a secret life. We walked in, a small bell tinkling above the door. The air smelled of cardboard and cleaning supplies. A bored-looking young man with tired eyes and an impressive mustache stood behind the counter, sorting a pile of mail. Liam, ever the strategist, took the lead. He put on a warm, friendly smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Good morning, he said, approaching the counter. Hoping you can help us. My sister and I need to send a rather important legal document to our mother, Maria Hernandez. We know she has a business box here, but in the rush, she forgot to give us the number. The clerk, whose name tag read Marcus, looked up from his sorting, his expression unchanging. Can't help you. Oh, Liam said, his smile faltering slightly. Is there a directory we could look at? Nope, Marcus said, popping the P, privacy policy. I can't confirm or deny that anyone rents a box here. Can't give out box numbers. Can't do anything for you without the box number. I understand the need for privacy. I jumped in, trying a softer approach. It's just that this is very time-sensitive. It's for her new business, the Sovereignty Consultancy. I threw the name out there, a wild guess based on Aunt Carol's rambling. Marcus's eyes flickered with a brief, almost imperceptible sign of recognition before his bored mask slipped back into place. Sorry, can't help you. Look, Liam said, his friendly demeanor evaporating. We know she has a box here. It's where the bills for the credit cards she opened in my sister's name are being sent. This is a criminal investigation. Marcus leaned back, unimpressed. He crossed his arms over his chest. You got a warrant? No, but then I can't help you. It's the law. I could lose my job. Now, if you're not here to ship a package or buy stamps, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Defeated, we walked back out into the glaring sunlight of the parking lot. The bell tinkled mockingly behind us. So that's it? I asked, the frustration boiling over. We hit a dead end? No, Liam said, his jaw tight. He was staring at the anonymous storefront with a new intensity. It's not a dead end. It's a detour. He recognized the business name, Jess. I saw it in his eyes. We were right. She's here. He got into the car and started the engine, but instead of pulling out of the parking lot, he drove to the far end, parking in a spot that gave us a clear, unobstructed view of the mail center's entrance. He turned off the engine. What are we doing? I asked. We're waiting, he said simply. Waiting for what? For Marcus to have a change of heart. Waiting for her, he said, his eyes fixed on the door. Think about it. The statements are coming here. The new credit cards she's applied for get mailed here. The welcome kits, the PIN numbers, it's all being delivered to that little box. She can't access any of it from home. She has to come here in person to pick it up. The reality of what he was suggesting sank in. A stakeout. We were going to sit in a car and spy on our own mother, waiting to catch her in the act. The idea felt both absurd and deeply tragic. Liam, we can't just sit here for hours or days. We have jobs. I took the week off, he said, not taking his eyes off the door. I told my boss it was a family emergency. It wasn't a lie, and you're going to call in sick. And what if she doesn't come today or tomorrow? She will, he said with grim certainty. That retreat to Costa Rica is in 2 weeks. The tickets, the itinerary, the final payment confirmations, it's all coming to that box. She's on a deadline, she'll be here. So we sat. The sun climbed higher in the sky, heating the inside of the car. We watched people come and go from the strip mall. A woman carrying a yoga mat. A man wrestling a newly purchased mattress into the back of a truck. A group of teenagers laughing as they went into the nail salon. Each one was a small slice of a normal life, a life not consumed by deception and betrayal. We talked in low voices, not about the situation, but about everything else. About Liam's job, about my latest marketing campaign, about a funny movie we'd seen years ago. We were trying to build a small island of normalcy in a sea of insanity. But the reason we were there was always present, hanging in the air between us. Around 2 in the afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Chloe. Any luck? I typed back, struck out with the clerk. Now we're on a stakeout, feeling like a low-budget cop movie. Her reply came back instantly. Keep me posted. And remember why you're doing this. You're taking your life back. Just as I put my phone down, Liam stiffened. Don't move, he whispered. I followed his gaze. A familiar silver Prius had just pulled into the parking lot. It parked 3 rows away from us. For a moment, my heart stopped. I watched as the driver's side door opened and my mother got out. She was dressed in flowing linen pants and a brightly colored tunic, a large woven bag slung over her shoulder. She looked carefree, radiant, like a woman without a single worry in the world. She locked her car and started walking towards the mail center, a small, determined smile on her face. The smile of a woman on her way to pick up the keys to her new, stolen life. Liam, I breathed, my voice shaking. What do we do? He pulled out his phone, his movements sharp and precise. We get the proof, he said, and hit record. My world narrowed to the small screen of Liam's phone. He held it steady, his hand as firm as a surgeon, capturing the entire scene. I watched our mother, Maria Hernandez, walk across the sun-bleached asphalt with a light, purposeful step. She pulled open the glass door of the mail center and disappeared inside. The bell gave a faint, cheerful tinkle. She's in, Liam stated, his voice a flat, emotionless report. He kept the camera aimed at the door. My own hands were shaking so violently I had to clench them in my lap. Every breath was a conscious effort. I felt like a stranger in my own body, an unwilling audience member at the premiere of my life's great tragedy. This couldn't be real. Mothers didn't do this. They didn't systematically dismantle their own daughter's future for a trip to Costa Rica and a handful of meaningless platitudes from a man who called himself a guru. The seconds stretched into minutes. What was she doing in there? Was she happily unlocking her little metal box? Was she sorting through the mail, looking at the statements for the cards that bore my name? Was she tearing open the envelope containing the new Premier Travel MasterCard, the one with the $20,000 limit that had appeared on my credit report last week? The thought made a wave of nausea roll through me. Here she comes, Liam said, his voice a low warning. The glass door opened, and Mom stepped back out into the sunlight, blinking for a moment. In her hand, she held a thick stack of envelopes. Even from a distance, I could see the familiar logos in their clear plastic windows, a red and orange circle, a blue and red bank insignia, crisp white business envelopes that screamed official document. She started walking back toward her Prius, fanning through the mail with a look of casual ownership on her face. She stopped for a moment to inspect one particular envelope, a slight smile gracing her lips. That smile broke me. It was a smile of satisfaction, of a job well done, of a plan coming together, and it was all funded by my ruin. "Now," Liam said. He turned off the recording, pocketed his phone, and opened his car door in one fluid motion. My own door felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I stumbled out of the car, my legs feeling like jelly. The parking lot suddenly felt vast and exposed. My mother, still engrossed in her mail, hadn't noticed us yet. We walked toward her, our footsteps unnaturally loud on the pavement. We were 10 feet away when she finally looked up, a flicker of annoyance on her face at being disturbed. Her expression morphed instantly. First shock. Her eyes widened, her mouth forming a small O, then confusion. Then finally a bright manufactured smile was plastered onto her face. The stack of mail was quickly, almost guiltily, shifted to be held behind her back. "Liam, Jesse," she exclaimed, her voice a little too loud, a little too bright. "What on earth are you two doing in Boulder? Is this a wonderful coincidence, or what? The universe is just full of synchronicities today." Liam stopped directly in front of her. I stood slightly behind him, using him as a shield. "It's not a coincidence, Mom," he said, his voice devoid of any warmth. "We came here to find you." Her smile faltered. She clutched her woven bag, the one she always said was for carrying positive intentions. "To find me? Why, you could have just called. Is everything all right?" She was trying to steer the conversation back to familiar territory, to her role as the concerned mother. "No, Mom," I said, my voice coming out as a reedy croak. I cleared my throat and tried again, forcing strength into my words. "Nothing is all right." I looked pointedly at the envelopes she was trying to hide behind her back. Her eyes followed my gaze, and a flicker of panic, real and unscripted, finally broke through her serene facade. "Know about the P.O. box, Mom," Liam said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "We know about the credit cards, we know about the loans." She stared at him, her face a mask of practiced innocence. I don't know what you're talking about. Credit cards? Loans? This is just some business mail." "Really?" Liam challenged. "Your sovereignty consultancy business? The one you told Aunt Carol about? Does that business require you to use your daughter's name and social security number to operate?" The mention of Aunt Carol hit her. It was a detail she hadn't accounted for. Her expression hardened. The victim was starting to emerge. "You've been talking to my sister about me, behind my back. That's a terrible violation of my privacy, Liam. A real betrayal of trust." "A betrayal?" I burst out, stepping forward. The sheer audacity of her words was a slap in the face. "You want to talk about betrayal? How about the $8,400 you spent in Beverly Hills? Or the $15,000 loan you defaulted on? Or the fact that my credit score is 482 because of you? I can't even get a loan for a reliable car because of you." "Oh, Jessica, you're being so dramatic," she said, waving a dismissive hand. "You're so attached to these meaningless numbers. It's just money. It's an illusion, an energetic flow. It's not an illusion to the collections agencies that are going to start calling me every day." I shouted, my voice cracking. "It's not an illusion to the bank that thinks I'm a deadbeat. How could you do this to me? How?" "I didn't do anything to you," she insisted, her voice rising to match mine, taking on a whiny, self-pitying tone. "I did it for me, and by extension for us. A happy, fulfilled mother is a better mother. I was investing in my joy. This trip to Costa Rica, the work I'm doing with Guru Avi, it's all part of my journey to become my highest self. I was going to pay it all back." "Pay it back with what?" Liam cut in, his voice dangerously calm. "With a lottery ticket, with positive thoughts. You don't have a job, Mom. You have a mountain of debt that you've put in your daughter's name." "It's not debt, it's a temporary energetic imbalance," she insisted, her eyes flashing. "Once my consultancy takes off, once I am living in a state of true abundance, the money will flow back. It's a loan. It's what family is for. You're my children. It is your duty to support my happiness, not to persecute me in a parking lot." Her words were so twisted, so profoundly selfish, that I felt dizzy. She had created a world where she was the hero of her own story, a brave spiritual warrior, and we were the villains, the small-minded accountants trying to hold her back from her glorious destiny. "It's not a loan if the other person doesn't know about it, Mom," I said, my voice dropping to a raw whisper. "That's called theft. It's called fraud. It's a crime." The word crime hung in the air. For the first time, she looked truly shaken. Her carefully constructed reality was cracking at the seams. "How dare you?" she hissed, her face contorting in an ugly snarl. "After everything I've done for you, I gave you life. This is how you repay me, by being so ungrateful, so negative." In her anger, her grip on the mail loosened. The thick stack of envelopes slipped from her grasp and fluttered to the asphalt. They landed in a messy pile at her feet. And there on top was a letter from Capital One, the window displaying my name in bold, clear print, JSSICAHERNANDZ. Next to it was another from a bank I didn't even recognize, also addressed to me. The proof scattered between us like fallen leaves. We all stared at the letters on the ground, the physical, undeniable evidence of her betrayal. She looked from the mail to my face, then to Liam. There was no remorse in her eyes, no apology. Only a raw, burning fury, the fury of a cornered animal. "You did this," she whispered, her voice trembling with rage. She pointed a shaking finger at me. "You and your negative energy, you were never supportive of my journey, you were always judging me. You brought this crisis into being with your doubt." She knelt down, not with shame, but with a frantic haste, scooping the letters back up. She shoved them into her oversized bag, her movements jerky and panicked. "I will not be subjected to this kind of vibrational attack," she spat, standing up and backing away from us. "You two have no idea the damage you're doing to my aura." And with that, she turned, practically ran to her car, fumbled with the keys, and got inside. She didn't look at us again. She slammed the door, started the engine with a roar, and peeled out of the parking spot, leaving us standing alone in a cloud of exhaust fumes. We were left in the sudden, deafening silence. The proof was gone, clutched in her bag as she fled. But we had the video. And more importantly, we had the truth, ugly and undeniable, lying like a crater in the middle of the parking lot. I finally let out the breath I felt like I had been holding for days, and my entire body began to tremble, a deep, uncontrollable shudder. The confrontation was over, and it was so much worse than I could have ever imagined. The silence that my mother left in her wake was more violent than the confrontation itself. It was a vacuum, sucking the air and the strength from my lungs. The trembling that had started in my hands spread through my entire body until my teeth were chattering. I wrapped my arms around myself, but the cold was on the inside. Liam didn't say a word. He simply put a firm hand on my back and guided me to the car, his touch a silent anchor in the swirling chaos of my emotions. We got in, and for a long moment we just sat there, the engine off, the only sound the frantic thumping of my own heart. "She's not sick, Liam," I whispered, the words tasting like ash. I kept thinking maybe she's not well, maybe there's a reason, something I don't understand, but she's not sick, she's just cruel. "I know," he said, his voice heavy with a sorrow that mirrored my own. "It's easier to think of it as an illness. It's harder to accept that it's a choice." He started the car and began the drive back to Denver. He reached over and turned on the radio, filling the silence with meaningless pop music. It was a small, kind gesture, a recognition that there were no words that could fix what had just happened. When we walked back into my apartment, Chloe was sitting on my couch, a book open in her lap, though it was clear she hadn't been reading. She shot to her feet the moment she saw our faces. "Oh no," she said, her eyes wide with concern. "What happened?" "Did you find her?" "We found her," Liam said, sinking into the armchair, the exhaustion of the day suddenly hitting him. He pulled out his phone. "And we got it on video." The three of us huddled around the small screen, the scene playing out again in shaky, horrible detail. My mother's arrival, her feigned surprise, her practiced denials, her furious, self-pitying justification. And finally, the damning moment when the letters addressed to me fluttered from her hands onto the dirty asphalt. Watching it a second time was somehow worse. It was stripped of the shock and adrenaline, leaving only the cold, ugly truth. When the video ended, Chloe was silent, her face pale. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of pity and rage. "I'm so sorry, Jess," she whispered. "I knew she was selfish. I had no idea she was a monster." "It's the I did it for me part," I said, my voice numb. "The idea that her journey gives her the right to burn my entire life to the ground for fuel. She really believes it. She's the hero." "So what now?" Chloe asked, her voice hardening, shifting from comfort to strategy. "You have the video, you have the police report. You take this to the detective assigned to your case and you bury her." "It's not that simple," Liam said, rubbing his temples. "A police report and a video are a good start, but this is our mother. The moment we hand that video over, we lose control. The district attorney will decide whether to press charges. She could go to jail." The word jail made my stomach clench. As much as I hated what she had done, the image of my mother in a prison jumpsuit was horrifying. "She deserves it," Chloe said, her voice steely. "Maybe," Liam conceded, "but is that what Jessica wants? Is that what she needs to fix this?" He turned to me. "Jess, we have two paths here as I see it. Path A, we go the legal route. We give the police everything. We cooperate with the prosecution. It will be the most effective way to officially clear your name with the credit bureaus. A conviction for fraud is a pretty definitive statement, but it will mean the end of our family as we know it. It will be public. It will be brutal. And there's no going back. He paused, letting the weight of that sink in. Path B, he continued, is that we use this video as leverage. We go to her, not in a parking lot, but in a controlled setting. We show her the video and we give her an ultimatum. She comes with us to every single credit card company. She signs a legally binding confession, an affidavit admitting to the fraud on every single account. She agrees to a payment plan, however unrealistic, and she actively participates in clearing your name. It keeps her out of jail, but it's messy. It relies on her cooperation, and there's no guarantee the creditors will accept it without an official police investigation. She'll never do it, Chloe said immediately. She'll lie. She'll twist it. She'll find a way to make herself the victim again. You saw her in that video. She might if her only other option is a prison sentence, Liam countered. They were both looking at me. The choice was mine. Prosecutor or what? A hostage negotiator? My own mother's warden? Both options felt impossible, each with its own unique kind of devastation. There has to be someone else we can talk to, I said, my mind grasping for a lifeline. Someone who understands this stuff. Not just the family part, but the legal part. Liam's expression cleared. You're right, I know who to call. He hesitated for a moment. Michael Chen. We went to college together. He's a lawyer now. Specializes in civil litigation, but he's smart. He'll know the landscape. He's a family friend. He's known Mom for years. Michael Chen? I remembered him. A kind, serious guy who had come over for dinner a few times when Liam was in college. He had always been respectful and a little intimidated by our mother's whirlwind personality. He was the perfect person to ask. He had context. Liam made the call. Michael, despite the late hour, agreed to meet us the following evening at his office. He said he'd treat it as an informal consultation, a favor for a friend. The next 24 hours were the longest of my life. I went through the motions of living, but my mind was stuck in a loop, replaying the confrontation, weighing Liam's two impossible paths. Path A felt like an amputation. Path B felt like a slow, festering poison. Michael's law office was on the 15th floor of a downtown skyscraper. It was quiet and intimidating, smelling of leather and old paper. Michael had aged well. The slightly nerdy college student was gone, replaced by a man with a sharp suit, a confident handshake, and tired, knowing eyes. He greeted Liam with a warm hug and me with a gentle, sympathetic smile. Chloe was there too. She had refused to let me go alone. We sat in his conference room, a large window behind him showcasing the city lights. He had a yellow legal pad in front of him, but he didn't take any notes. He just listened. Liam laid out the entire story, from the car dealership to the credit reports to the stakeout in the Boulder parking lot. He was calm, factual, and concise. When he was done, he placed his phone on the polished mahogany table. And this is the confrontation, he said. Michael watched the video without a word, his expression unreadable. When it was over, he leaned back in his chair and let out a long, slow sigh. Wow, he said softly. Maria Hernandez, I always thought she was a character. I had no idea. He looked directly at me, his professional demeanor softening. Jessica, I'm incredibly sorry you're going through this. This is a nightmare of the highest order. We need to know what our options really are, Liam said, getting straight to the point. From a legal perspective. Michael nodded, his lawyer persona clicking back into place. Okay, Liam's assessment of your two paths is generally correct, but let me add some color. Path A, the legal route, you take that video to the police. Given the evidence and the dollar amounts involved, the DA will almost certainly press charges. This is felony-level identity theft. Best case for her, she gets a lenient judge and is sentenced to probation and restitution. Worst case, she could serve actual jail time. He let that hang in the air. The major benefit for you, Jessica, is that a criminal conviction is a golden ticket with the credit bureaus and the banks. It's ironclad proof that you were a victim. The process of cleaning your credit will still be a soul-crushing bureaucratic nightmare that will take years, but it will be possible. You will have a definitive legal judgment on your side. My heart sank. Years. Even with the best-case scenario, it would take years. And Path B? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Path B is what we call a civil settlement, except there's no lawsuit yet, Michael explained. You use the threat of criminal prosecution to force her into a confession and a cooperation agreement. The affidavits she signs will be helpful, but they aren't as powerful as a court order. Some banks might accept them and write off the debt. Others might not. They could argue that you are colluding with your mother to get out of legitimate debt, especially since you're not pressing charges. It's a gamble, and it puts the entire burden of enforcement on you. If she stops cooperating, what's your next move? You're back to square one. He leaned forward, his expression serious. There's also a third option you need to be aware of. The banks and credit card companies can pursue her, both civilly and criminally. Once you report this as fraud, they will launch their own investigations. They have entire departments dedicated to this. They can and often do file their own police reports. By not going to the police yourself, you're not necessarily protecting her. You're just giving up your own control over the process. His words landed like a ton of bricks. We had been thinking of this as our private family tragedy, a choice between us and her. But there were other players, faceless corporations that wanted their money back and didn't care about our family dynamics. So what you're saying, I clarified, my head spinning, is that even if I choose not to press charges, she could still end up being prosecuted. Absolutely, Michael said. In fact, it's likely. These companies don't like to let tens of thousands of dollars just walk away. They will find out where the money went. They will follow the trail right back to that P.O. box in Boulder and to your mother. Sole sovereign retreat. I looked at Liam, then at Chloe. The illusion of having a choice, of having any control at all, was evaporating. It felt like we were standing on a shoreline, watching a tidal wave approach, arguing over which way to run. What would you do? I asked Michael, the question slipping out before I could stop it. He held up his hands. I can't answer that, Jessica. I can only tell you the law. This is a decision that goes far beyond legal strategy. It's about what you can live with. Do you want the cleanest possible path to restoring your life, even if it means destroying your mother? Or are you willing to take on a longer, more difficult fight to protect the person who did this to you? We left his office an hour later, my mind buzzing with legal terms and worst-case scenarios. As we stood waiting for the elevator, Liam put his hand on my shoulder. He's right, Jess, this is your call. Chloe and I will back you up 100% no matter what you decide, but you're the one who has to live with it. The elevator doors opened. As I stepped inside, the mirrored walls showed me my own reflection, a pale, exhausted-looking young woman who looked 10 years older than she had a week ago. This was my life now, a series of impossible choices. I looked at the police report case number saved on my phone. The next move was mine, and I had no idea what it was going to be. The ride down the elevator was a descent into a new kind of reality. The two paths Liam had laid out, which had seemed so stark and absolute, were now blurry, complicated by the cold, hard facts of the law. Michael's words echoed in my head, "You're not necessarily protecting her. You're just giving up your own control." Control. It was the one thing I had been clinging to my entire adult life. Control over my finances, my career, my future. My mother's actions had been a hostile takeover of that control. Now, I was being told that my only real choice was how I wanted to engage in the battle to get it back. Passively, as a victim waiting for corporations to act, or actively, as the agent of my own rescue, even if it meant aiming the weapon at my own mother. We didn't talk on the drive back to my apartment. There was nothing left to say. The facts had been presented, the strategies had been outlined. Now a decision had to be made. When we walked through my door, I didn't sit down. I walked to the window and stared out at the city lights, the same view that had offered no comfort days earlier. But something was different now. The panic had subsided, replaced by a cold, quiet clarity. "I'm going to her house," I said, my voice steady. "Tonight." Liam and Chloe both turned to look at me. "Jess, are you sure?" Liam asked gently, "Maybe you should sleep on it." "I've been doing nothing but sleeping on it, and it's been a nightmare," I said, turning to face them. "I'm not going there to yell. I'm not going there to cry. I'm going there to end this." Michael made it clear. This isn't about sending her to jail or not. This is about what happens next, and I am not going to let her be in the driver's seat for one more second. I am taking back control. My voice didn't waver. For the first time in a week, I felt a flicker of the old Jessica, the one who made plans and executed them. "We'll go with you," Chloe said, her hand finding mine. My mother lived in a small rented bungalow in a quiet, older neighborhood. The garden she usually tended with such pride was looking neglected, the flowers wilting. As we walked up the path, I felt a pang of something, pity, maybe, or a ghost of the love that had once been so simple. I pushed it down. This wasn't about emotion. This was a business transaction, the business of undoing a betrayal. I knocked on the door. It took a moment, but she opened it, dressed in a faded bathrobe, her hair a mess. She looked like she hadn't slept. When she saw the three of us standing on her porch, her face hardened. "I told you I would not be subjected to your vibrational attacks," she said, her voice a low hiss. "You need to leave." "We're not leaving, Mom," I said, my tone calm and non-negotiable. You can either talk to us in here, or we can have this conversation on your front lawn for all of your neighbors to hear. It's up to you." For a moment, I thought she would slam the door in our faces. But something in my eyes, some new steel she hadn't seen before, must have given her pause. With a look of deep resentment, she stepped back and let us in. Her house was a mess. Half-packed suitcases lay open on the floor, filled with tropical print dresses and new sandals. Travel brochures for Costa Rica were scattered on the coffee table. She was still planning on going. The delusion was still fully intact. We didn't sit. We stood in the middle of her living room, a united front. I took a deep breath. "Last night we met with a lawyer," I began, my voice as level as a judge. "He explained the legal reality of what you've done. This isn't an energetic imbalance. It's multiple felonies. Identity theft, wire fraud, mail fraud. And the dollar amount is high enough that it carries the potential for significant jail time." She scoffed, crossing her arms. "Oh, please, you're not going to send your own mother to jail." "You're right, I'm not," I said, and a flicker of relief crossed her face. I didn't let it settle. I don't have to. The moment I reported the fraud, a clock started ticking. The banks, the credit card companies, they've all launched their own investigations. They don't care that you're my mother. They care that you stole over $50,000, and they will prosecute you to get it back. We have a video of you admitting what you did. It's not a matter of if you will be charged, Mom. It's a matter of when." The color drained from her face. This was a consequence she hadn't manifested. This was a reality she couldn't meditate away. "So I'm here to give you your final two options," I continued, pressing the advantage. "This is the last choice you get to make in this situation. Option 1, you do nothing. You keep lying, you keep denying. And I will walk out of this house and hand over my entire file, the police report, the video, all of it, to the lead detective and to the fraud department of every company you stole from. I will cooperate fully with the district attorney. I will testify against you in court, and you will face the consequences alone." I let that sink in, watching the terror dawn in her eyes. "Option 2, I said, my voice dropping slightly. "You help me. You help me fix this. You cancel your trip. You liquidate whatever assets you have, the car, any savings, these new clothes. You come with me to the police station tomorrow morning and you make a full, voluntary confession. You sign legal affidavits for every single fraudulent account, admitting your guilt. You do this and you demonstrate full cooperation. If you do that, I will tell the DA that you are taking responsibility. The lawyer says it's no guarantee, but it is your only chance for leniency. Probation instead of prison, restitution instead of a cage." I finished, my heart hammering but my voice unwavering. This was it, the entire ugly mess distilled into one final, terrible choice. She stared at me, her mouth opening and closing but no sound coming out. The spiritual platitudes, the self-help jargon, the language of delusion, it all failed her. She was stripped bare, with only the cold, hard facts of her actions and their consequences left. And she finally broke. A raw, ragged sob tore from her throat, and she collapsed onto the couch, her face in her hands. "I didn't mean for it to get like this," she wept. "I just wanted to be happy. I just wanted to feel alive." "Your happiness doesn't give you the right to destroy someone else's life," Liam said, his voice quiet but unforgiving. There was no magical moment of apology, no profound expression of remorse for the pain she had caused me. Her tears were for herself. For her ruined trip, for her shattered illusions, for the prison cell that now loomed in her future. But they were tears of surrender. Faced with the end of her own freedom, she finally chose to cooperate. The years that followed were a long, grinding marathon of consequences. My mother avoided jail time, but just barely. She was sentenced to 5 years of probation and ordered to pay restitution, a debt I knew she would likely never fully repay. The relationship between us was shattered. I loved her as a daughter is biologically bound to love a mother, but the trust, the respect, the very foundation of our bond was gone. I saw her at holidays, kept the conversations brief and superficial, and never, ever allowed myself to be vulnerable with her again. It was a scar that would never fully fade. Rebuilding my credit was a painstaking process of letters, phone calls, and endless paperwork. It took me 4 years to clear my name completely, to erase the phantom life of debt she had created. 4 years of living carefully, of proving I was who I said I was. The day I was finally approved for a car loan, for a modest, reliable, completely unluxurious sedan, I sat in the finance manager's office and cried. They were tears of exhaustion, of relief, and of victory. I signed the paperwork with a steady hand, and when I drove off the lot, the new car smell was not one of possibility, but of reclamation. It was the smell of a life I had rebuilt, piece by responsible piece, from the ashes of a profound betrayal. I learned the hardest lesson of all, that sometimes the deepest wounds come from the people who are supposed to protect you. And that strength isn't always about forgiveness. Sometimes it's about building a wall, a boundary. A line in the sand that says, "I love you, but I love myself more, and I will not let you destroy me." It's a painful, heartbreaking lesson, but it's a powerful one. It's the lesson that finally, truly, made me my own sovereign self.